All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video in advance of the draft. To make sure you check out Pig and a Pickle, 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. They're open 7 days a week in Corte Madera from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., and they're open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville inside the Emeryville Public Marketplace. Well, John Lynch spoke to the media prior to the draft on Monday, and Brandon Aiyuk Lynch was asked about Ayuk's fifth-year option. The question was worded this way. It said, regarding Aiyuk, if you pick up his fifth-year option with what that number will be next year and with wide receiver Deebo Samuel's number, we've talked about you can't keep McGlinchey and Trent Williams. The Colts, DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead situation, I know we're talking about 2024, but is that something you can creatively navigate, having both those guys remain on the roster next season? So the question was, with what they're making, Aiyuk and Deebo, can they both be on the roster next year? And Lynch said, yeah, it's a good question. It's a fair question because I understand the line of thinking. You can't keep everyone. We're trying to do something special this year, and Brandon is going to be a big part of that and beyond as well. And so, yes, you always have to think out a few years ahead, but we're really excited about Brandon. I feel like he made another big step last year, and I think the best is yet to come. So we want him to be a part of it. And at some point, yeah, you have to figure things out, and I guess we'll take that as it comes. But as of right now and into the future, we're really excited about Brandon Aiyuk and where he's at as a pro. The work he's done to develop as a pro and to become one of our core players here. So, okay, so let's talk about that for a second. I think there's a lot of reason that there's a lot of trade speculation around Brandon Aiyuk. Why? Because the New York Giants are one of the teams that needs a wide receiver. They're kind of in a win now mode. They've got a late first-round pick, 25 or 26, and there's been some speculation that they may actually be willing to shop it to the Niners for Brandon Aiyuk. All right, would the Niners have any interest in that? I mean, to me, if the Giants offered the Berean Christian high school kid from Walnut Creek, if they offered him the wide receiver the Giants have, who's a hell of a player. I mean, to me, Isaiah Hodgins is his name. He runs good routes. He's not Aiyuk, but he runs good routes. He's got phenomenal hands, really good ball skills, good size, bigger than Aiyuk. Not the dynamic player that Aiyuk is. But if they offered him and their late first, I would really consider it. But look at where the Niners are. They're all about 2023 and potentially winning the Super Bowl this year. And I think they're looking to deal with next year. So it is an interesting question about Aiyuk. Why? Because they typically keep 5 wide receivers on a roster, and the Niners just picked up Chris Conley the other day. He becomes their 7th wide receiver. You've got Deebo, Aiyuk, Juwan Jennings, Danny Gray, Ray McLeod, Tay Martin, and now Chris Conley. And you're still looking at Jaden Reed, Jonathan Mingo, several, Michael Wilson from Stanford, I'm sure. So you're looking at receivers, and you're already 7 deep, and you typically might keep 5 on a roster, maybe 6 if you go with an extra receiver. So I do understand why people are speculating on Brandon Aiyuk getting moved, because it's easy to go, okay, wait a second. They could move Aiyuk, get a pick back, not pay him the $14 million plus on the 5th-year option, which they have to decide on by Monday, which is interesting as well. He was non-committal about that option. I think the Niners will, commit to Aiyuk for the 5th-year option, but that's if they don't move him this weekend. Now, it was interesting, though, when Lynch was asked about Aiyuk, he basically, says he wants him to be here. I mean, unlike Trey Lance, where he kind of left it pretty wide open and was basically generic in his answer, with Aiyuk, there's nothing ambiguous about what he said here. He said, we're trying to do something special this year, and Brandon is going to be a big part of that and beyond as well. So he isn't going anywhere. And I know there's a lot of people speculating about a trade for Aiyuk, but I think Lynch told us this weekend, or this Monday, I should say, that Bosa is going nowhere and they're not even answering the phone. That Aiyuk, despite the fact that they won't absolutely guarantee it, they view him as a key cog going forward, and they're not looking to trade him, despite the fact that some teams may even offer a late first-round pick or maybe even more. And then with Lance, he basically said we expect him to be here, but he wouldn't guarantee it. And it sounds like Trey Lance is definitely available if you'll meet the Niners' price. And to date, nobody has met that price. So just to focus on Aiyuk, I think Aiyuk is going to age really well. He doesn't carry extra weight. He's very, very physical. He's got really, really broad shoulders, really long arms. He's a 6-foot receiver, 6'1" receiver who plays like 6'3", 6'4" because of the ridiculous length he has in his arms. I think his best football is still coming. I think you've seen him get better. I think he's going to take another step or two. He's going to be a top-tier NFL receiver. We have yet to see the best of Brandon Aiyuk. It does make you wonder, though, if they're going to draft a receiver this year so that next year they can trade Aiyuk. So, like, if the Niners drafted Jonathan Mingo in the 3rd round at Ole Miss, who I personally love, think he's a terrific receiver, great prospect, smart, athletic, fast, tough, physical. If they get Mingo, Ayuk's going to be here. They're going to have a hell of a wide receiver core this year. But next year Aiyuk would get dealt. Or if they drafted Marvin Mims or Jaden Reed or somebody in the top 3 or 4 rounds at receiver, Raheem Jarrett I really like from Maryland. They draft a receiver that they really like in this draft. I think there's a very good chance that Ayuk's not here a year from now. But this year he's going to be there. Now they also worked out this week Jaden Hazelwood from Arkansas, who's another, 6'2", 215-pound receiver. They've looked at Ronnie Bell out of Michigan. They've looked at Dontavian Wicks. They've looked at Puka Nacua from BYU. There's a number of receivers. I think Elijah Higgins could intrigue them. There's a number of interesting receivers, and they're doing their due diligence clearly on the receivers. But I don't necessarily I think that if they draft one this year, they'll slow play that guy and they'll bring him along as a depth piece this year, and then at the end of the year they'll move off of Aiyuk in a trade. So is Brandon Aiyuk going to be dealt? I don't think he's going to be dealt on draft weekend. I don't. I think he's here for the upcoming season, which is good news for the 49ers and their fans. But I do think the Niners are going to invest in a wide receiver of note. If you ask me, what is a receiver that you absolutely would predict would be a 49er? I'll make one prediction. I think maybe in the 7th round or as an undrafted free agent, the Clemson wide receiver, Joseph Ngata, who has been working out with Aiyuk. I think they're cousins. He's from Sacramento. I think Ngata, who was a 5-star high school recruit, didn't really fulfill his potential at Clemson, but he's still a tremendous athlete. I think Joseph Ngata could be a 7th-round pick of the 49ers. I think Joseph Ngata could be a after the draft pick by the 49ers, and I think he could really help. Aiyuk, I don't think is dealt this year, but I think it's likely he's dealt next year. Unless he has just some monster year and they can come to terms on some long-term agreement that's good for both sides, I think that's going to be a pipe dream. I think he's going to play this year. I think he's going to play well. I think they're going to dangle the carrot in front of him. He's going to have a monster year, and then he's moving on. All right, hope you enjoyed our 49er video. The draft coming up this week. Keep it locked on the Krug Show for all your top-tier Niner content. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show, and thanks for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.